Welcome back to Lucore Automotive. You join me on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and we are going to go get some parts for the Subaru build. Guy in Pennsylvania, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump away, has a set of heads that we need. So I'm in the car. We are gonna get on a road trip. We'll see you there. All right, well, exchange is made. Got myself a new set of heads. Guy was super nice. He was willing to drive an hour out of his way to come meet me, save me 2 hours out of my trip. So that's awesome. He had an NA build Subaru, pretty cool, you know, carbon fiber hood and wing and, you know, all the fun go fast bits. Talking to him a little bit about what I'm doing, and a real good guy. So now back home, drive back the way I came.
Obviously, Derek has made it back. Trip went well. Hop, skip, and a jump.
More or less, hop, skip, and a jump.
Like
twice.
3.5 hours each way.
Yeah, so he is in Butler, PA.
Yeah.
Which is just over, I think, 4 hours.
Like east of Youngstown, Ohio.
Yeah.
Which is nowhere near Columbus, Ohio.
Nowhere near.
Yeah.
Hop, skip, and jump.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you got to do it twice?
Yeah. So he was willing, the first time he was willing to drive an hour, and we met just on the other side of Youngstown. Mm-hmm. So it cut my drive to 6 hours instead of 8,
right.
Which was nice.
Yeah.
I appreciated that, just random guy.
And I appreciate you not making me take that drive.
Right, you know, hey, can I meet you a little closer? Sure. All right, cool. Threw the heads in the trunk, drove back, brought them in the shop. I'm like, that camshaft's spinning more than it should. So tore it apart, and lo and behold, camshaft was broke, which apparently is a problem on these single overhead cams.
So we've seen now 2 of them in a very short order.
And I had never even heard that was a thing.
Yeah.
But apparently it's definitely a thing.
Clearly that's a thing.
So, messaged the guy, said, hey, one of these is broken. You said they were good.
Right. You found this on Marketplace?
Yeah, Facebook Marketplace. So, little, you know.
A little bit better than Craigslist.
Don't know what you're going to get, but I was hoping he would make it right, and he did. We actually met at Summit, which is pretty much halfway. So, really, you know, kudos on him for being willing to.
That's awesome.
To make it right.
Even though it did cost you half a day of your life, but
yeah, and he paid for my gas on the second trip.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, I mean, this thing sips gas, but you know, that's $20 I don't have to spend at the gas station.
So, you know, anything worth doing once is worth doing twice, I guess.
Right.
So, but now you have good heads.
Now I have 2 of them. Hopefully they're good. Haven't torn these apart yet. They haven't been to Mike's.
Okay.
But all of the valves do work.
So when we left this last video, we were still kind of up in the air as far as what we wanted to do.
Yeah, I was still thinking 2-liter turbo heads.
Right. Dual overhead cam.
Dual overhead cam. Right. A little bit of, you guys had some comments as well about single overhead cams. There was one guy in particular who mentioned a Facebook group, I think it was, that does single overhead cam builds. Okay. And I started looking into that a little bit more, and on these cars, if it's post 06, they have a system called AVLS. Right. Which is
the variable valve timing stuff.
Oil pressure stuff. And we neither of us thought that was a thing. Right. So, without making the car's electronics go crazy, I wanted to stick with the AVLS heads. So, for this car, there are actually 2 options. One for regular cars and one for the PZEV, partial zero emission vehicles, Subarus. My understanding is the only difference is a camshaft and a little bit of electronics. Okay. So the casting, which is all that we need, is identical. Okay. So And I actually don't even know which ones these are.
Okay. So the build at this point in time is pretty well picked directionally.
Yep.
We're doing the 2.5 bottom end, forged internals, high compression pistons, so like 10.5 to 1 compression.
Yep.
You're going to run single overhead cam,
Yep.
non-variable valve timing heads.
No, these are variable valve
Okay,
timing
so
heads.
these are variable valve
Yeah,
timing
so
heads.
they are plug and play with this car.
Okay, great.
Those heads are the exact same heads that are on my car right now.
Perfect. And then you're going to do, you mentioned Delta cams?
Yeah. So Delta camshafts, you send them your camshafts, or you can buy their camshaft cores. And then they regrind, either add material or remove, whatever they need to do. And they go from, I think they start at 1,000 and they go to either 3,000, 3,500, something like that. Your 3000 series is like a race cam. They call
Right.
it, I think they call it literally the spicy cam.
Okay.
And it's not something that's streetable. It doesn't
Okay.
work below, 4,000 RPM.
Sure.
Originally, when I was speaking with Ken, and I mentioned this earlier, he was saying to go with something like the 1000 or 1500, which is pretty much a stock cam.
Right.
A little bit
Just
of
a little bit
tweaking, a little bit of, making it better. But when I was talking to him about the possibility of nitrous, he was saying go with the 1000 or 1500 because you get less overlap between the cylinders.
Gotcha.
So you don't lose your nitrous.
Gotcha.
And I was telling him, like, nitrous is the icing on the cake on this.
Right.
It's not where the core power wants to be coming from. And he was like, oh, okay, well, that's different. Use a 2000. So we're going to go with the 2000 grind.
Okay. So it's kind of midway between a normal cam and the crazy race cam.
It's an aggressive street cam.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Valve job, titanium springs and retainers, all the.
We
bits and
talked
bobs.
about so valve springs. We're gonna obviously want to upgrade those. The tie springs and tie keepers. We're gonna run with factory valves. Or are we doing lighter valves
I don't think we need to do lighter valves.
or bigger valves?
We do have the option of the +1 mil valve, which, depending on cost, we'll have to get the I think I'll make that decision once we get the bottom end put together,
Okay.
depending on funds.
Sure.
So we'll leave that one in the air. It's always possible. I don't know that it's going to get me that much.
Right. But
Every little bit helps.
yeah,
So
especially when
we'll
you're
have-
an NA build.
That's a decision that I'm going to weigh a little bit later.
Okay. So, at this point in time, really what we're looking to do with this is we're trying to keep this very budget friendly. This is your first foray into building a motor for yourself.
Right.
And we're also trying to make this much more like a lot of our builds where it's more like normal people, this is what you would build.
Right. You could.
It's
do
not
this.
like, oh, I'm a famous YouTuber, I'm going to spend $15,000 on a whatever.
200 horsepower engine.
Right.
No.
It's not fancy schmancy stuff. It's, we're finding a set of rods, maybe from Manley, maybe even
MaxPeeding.
Yeah, we may even go even cheaper. MaxPeeding is possible because a lot of people are using those now. Kind of trying to cut down reciprocating mass is kind of where we're really at.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I don't know that we can get the data as far as what those rods weigh different between the two, but Manley pistons, some decent bearings, MLS head gaskets for the better sealing surface, bump the
Yep.
compression up to where it needs to be, and everybody seems to think you actually can do what you're looking to do, right?
Yeah.
Like this isn't rocket science.
No. Ken, speaking with him was awesome. He said that the guy who does the tuning for Cobb drove his 200 wheel horsepower NA Subaru and was giggling the whole time. And he drives a 600 horsepower STI. So Ken basically gave me the recipe.
Okay.
So
Hey, thanks, Ken.
yeah, we'll
So,
go with it.
next step at this point is what? We'll take these to Mike.
Yep.
Have
Get
him check these
checked
heads?
out. If they're good, we'll start on the head work. Get
Okay.
the cams set up.
And then you got to send these cams out to, where are those guys? Washington State?
Something like that, yeah.
West Coast. So we got to take these to Mike, have him pull them apart, clean them, check them, make sure they're good, and then send the cams off to the West Coast.
Yep.
And then we got to start ordering parts for the bottom.
Bottom end. Yep.
Okay. So, we have a game plan. And it's not going to be terribly expensive, we don't think.
No, my thought with this whole thing is do the big things that are going to get me power, but when I feel like you start having diminishing returns. The more money you spend, you have diminishing returns. So we'll get to the hump,
right?
And then the rest of it, don't worry about it because it's only 30 horsepower.
Right. So get the point where you're getting the most bang for your buck, and then skip out on the really expensive stuff. That's
right. Stuff like sodium-filled valves and
or tie valves or
yeah, or
you could spend like $5,000 rebuilding a set of heads.
Oh, you could spend more than that.
And you don't even need to do porting and polishing, I don't think, either. They were talking about like you could just do some kind of like normal hand porting on the heads.
Yeah, he was saying a 3-angle valve job is gonna be worth it.
Yeah, that's gonna be basically standard for us anyway.
Right.
But you don't have to get any crazy as far as... Okay. Now, what did you figure out as far as the intake situation? What are we going to do with that?
I haven't really figured out a whole lot more on that. I'm thinking definitely go with the larger throttle body.
Because we were talking about like the larger big bore turbo throttle body.
Right.
Okay.
There's, I forget what mil it is, but it's like 30% larger over stock.
I think it's like a 76 millimeter.
Something like that. Which is like what you'd see on a V8. So.
Yeah.
Okay. And then beyond that, I don't think I'm going to do anything.
Okay.
So we'll just
bolt it together and
match
see what happens.
everything, and if there's some porting we can do in there, great. We'll gasket match it, stuff like that.
Okay.
But beyond that, I don't think I'm really going to.
So your guys aren't, as far as what Delta was saying, is you don't even really necessarily need to mess with these heads as far as porting the heads go.
Not crazy, no.
Okay.
Just standard head work.
Wow. Okay. So, there's our game plan at the moment. Again, this is a little bit of a weird situation for us because we've done hot rod Subarus before. We've done turbo hot rod Subarus before. We've never done an NA Subaru.
Yeah.
But it's all mechanical stuff. It all is basically the same idea. And these are very simple. I mean, this is like a single cam rocker arm setup with, it's not buckets and shims and all that other stuff. So it's actually kind of still old school hot rodding, just with,
Just in a different format.
Yeah. So all the same stuff still works. As you were saying, you're probably going to maybe run a little bit of nitrous on this thing. Maybe 100 shot, maybe 50 shot or 100 shot, something like that. So we're going to make that, part of the conversation when we're ordering pistons to be able to make sure that they're turbo pistons / nitrous pistons.
Right.
Make sure the ring gap is where it needs to be. I think we got a game plan.
I think so. But, keeping in mind with the nitrous, I want that to be icing on the cake.
Right. You want 200 wheel
out of the engine.
Without anything else.
Right.
And then maybe additional with nitrous.
If I get an additional 50 with nitrous, great. But I don't want to have to use it to get the power out of the car.
Right.
Because that starts getting expensive.
Right. You may never use it.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's our plan. Update on the hot rod Subaru. It's going to go in that, which is, we'll call it a sleeper.
Something like that.
Nobody would ever expect that to be fast.
No.
Ever expect that to be fast. How about you guys out there? Are we on the right track? Does this make sense? Are we completely losing our damn minds, or?
We had a lot of hate on the first video. There were a lot of people who were like, I'm getting my popcorn, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then there were some people who were like, no, it needs a turbo, stop.
And
Which is understandable.
Right. That is always the answer to make more power, especially on a turbo, is shove some air in it.
Yeah.
But we want to do something a little bit different. Now, clearly, obviously, we're not the only people that have done this.
No.
And I don't know why I didn't think about the people that run like rally cars and that kind of stuff that run NA motors. Because that totally makes sense that they would do the same setup.
Yeah.
So there are other people that we've actually talked with that have done similar things to this. So we're not completely nuts. Now, are you going to spend a bunch of money to be able to make less power than you would with a turbo?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not a question. Yes.
Right. So let's just say we understand that there's a little bit of stupidity in this, but it's not always about making the most amount of power you can possibly make. This will be totally drivable on the stock transmission. It won't be terrible on fuel. It won't be a complete pain in the butt to drive. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Whereas a big turbo Subaru, any of you Subaru guys out there, big turbo Subarus with lightened flywheels and gigantic, you know, power up at the top end are horrible to drive on the bottom end. Horrible. Flame away in the comments if you'd like. They're horrible to drive on the street. You've got to get them up in the rev range before they make any power. They don't make any torque. They're chattery. They're horrible. And then you also have to worry about blowing up a transmission. Subaru people. Anyway, that's the plan at the moment. So these things are going to Mike at M&M Head Service tomorrow. We'll drop these off. I'm hopefully picking up the 2.8 liter Ford block rods and pistons and crankshaft to bring that back so we can test fit that, so we can see what our in the hole depth is, so we can cut the block to be able to get the build going on the motor for the Capri race car. And as long as these things check out, pull them apart, send the cams off, and get moving, and start ordering parts. So there we go. Quick and easy, simple update on the Hot Rod Subaru project for Derek. And let us know what you think. Are we on the right track? And quit saying to put a turbo on it.
Now, somebody did say supercharger.
Or a supercharger. I will be honest, a supercharger would be amazing.
We didn't say don't say supercharger.
Because nobody supercharges Subarus.
Like, it would be cool.
It would be different.
You'd have a lot of belt noise, because you already have a lot of belt noise.
Yes. It would be different. It would still be expensive.
Not what we're looking for. Yeah.
No. So no turbo, no supercharger. Ridiculous. Anyway, thanks for watching. We appreciate you being here. We do also honestly very much appreciate comments. We are learning as we go, and we're learning from you guys. Yeah. This is not like we know all the answers to this stuff. We're kind of getting outside of our comfort zone too. So anybody who's ever done this, give us your feedback. We're talking 2.5 forged pistons, 10-to-1 compression, 2.5 EJ block, 2.5 the variable valve timing heads.
Yep, ABLS heads.
We're talking the 2000 grind Delta cam. Can you do that on stock fuel systems? Fuel injectors?
I don't know about fuel injectors or fuel pump.
How about that? Fuel injectors, fuel pump. Do we need to go bigger pump and bigger injectors? Is there enough room inside those factory injectors to go a little bit bigger? Well,
that's I would think with the addition of nitrous, we're going to need...
Well, I'm more worried about even before nitrous. I can't imagine that those injectors are set up to be able to run almost double the power that they made from the factory.
Yeah.
All right, so we're probably going to need to do
probably injectors, but fuel pump, that's a question, but it's also a pretty cheap fix if we do need to...
Put a Walbro 255 in it and call it dead.
Right.
And then intake manifold, we're going to run, I guess, just the stock NA 2.5 intake.
You and I were talking about wiring in some sensors to be able to see intake pressures.
See if it's running out of breath.
Right. So that way, you know, we can gauge. Okay, if it's throttle body's good, intake's restricting us, we know what we need to fix once we get it on the dyno.
Right. Speaking of dyno, the next time you see this thing, it's going to be on the dyno, so we can set up a base number and see what it makes in stock trim.
Probably check my ball joints.
Which is going to be entertaining. Anyway, thanks for being here. Comment section, click the like button. If you're not already subscribing, click on the subscribe button. We've got a lot of cool stuff we do in here. It's not just Subaru stuff. Obviously, there's hot rod stuff as well. But we're not just a hot rod shop. We do all kinds of stuff. Derek spent all day putting a CVT transmission in a Nissan.
That was fun.
Look, see? And then Bruce spent all day putting a transmission in another Subaru. That's what we do here.
Another CVT.
Everything.
Would have it.
Yeah, right? Shocker, shocker. Thanks for being here. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.